And welcome everyone to the DroidCon panel, the Ask Googlers About Android 12 panel. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your time zones. I will say, even though the name of this panel is Android 12, we don't need to limit ourselves to Android 12 topics. We can talk about, for example, Android 11. That's fine too. Again, I'm Fred Chung with Android Developer Relations team. I'm today's moderator, joined by 6 other panelists. And I think we're going to go through introduction in a minute, but I think some of the panelists require no further introduction because they've been so active in the communities. Before we get started, I wanted to do a really quick recap on Android 12. As Greg alluded to, Android 12 is in the trail end of beta. We are trying to wrap things up to prepare for release very, very soon. In the previous few months during developer preview and beta, thank you so much for developer feedback that we've received and people that have given it a chance to test out the platform and changes and so forth. If you look at the platform, there are really 3 main themes plus a bunch of behavior changes and other improvements: privacy, performance, and UI. So privacy is such an important thing in this industry and for the users these days that it's really a recurring theme on Android. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking with the panelists about that today. Performance, right? Again, it's another obvious criterion that users care about. No one's one janky developer experience. And in this release, we've been putting in a lot of changes in the system services to make them more CPU efficient, for example. And on the platform side, it has also imposed some restrictions on apps to make them more efficient. For example, notification trampolines are no longer allowed. And then the third one, last but not the least, UI, right? Widgets UI, for example, has finally been overhauled to make it easier for you to build interactive experiences and support responsive layouts and so forth. Additionally, the design language has been updated. We now have Material U. Now, there was a quick recap of Android 12. And for the panelists today that's with us, there are 6 of us from the Android framework team representing different areas, including window manager, background, multitasking, privacy, and we're going to do introduction in a minute. But I'm going to go through some final bookkeeping items, right? So we're going to have approximately 1 hour or 50-ish minutes. We're going to do a quick round of intro and with some light discussions. And we're going to open it up, as Greg mentioned. If you have questions, please type them in. One important note before we really get into the panel is that by policy, we can't discuss specific future plans. So if your question begins with, will you support X? There's a good chance that we might skip over them. So please don't be offended by that. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to do a quick intro of the team. I'm actually let the team introduce themselves. How about do a quick intro of yourself? Tell us about one thing that excites you the most in Android 12 and why. Maybe we'll start off from Amit.
My name is Amit. I work on the core Android framework team. My team focuses on process and application lifecycle management. We do battery-saving features that impact app developers, as well as all of the background scheduling APIs like Job Scheduler, Alarm Manager, and so on. There are lots of cool privacy features and UI improvements in Android. One little thing that we did in Android 12 is, we have a lot of annoying notifications that just pop up and disappear. Sometimes these are basically foreground services that need to run for a few seconds. So one thing we added in 12 is that if your notification for foreground service is less than 10 seconds, we don't even bother to show it because it's just annoying to the user. And I think it's really reduced the amount of notification spam that users tend to see throughout the day. Thank you. Maybe move it over to Diane.
Hi, I'm Diane Hackborn. I manage the framework team. I guess so. One thing that excites me, I'll take a kind of little thing. It's the new device scanning runtime permission that kind of addresses this long-standing problem that we had to tie location to scanning devices, because that acts as, that provides location information. So, if you're going to be able to do that, we really need to protect it some way. And it's kind of a nice resolution to that. And it's still, there's some policy around, like, you declare whether or not you're going to use that scan information for location, which makes it okay kind of to like have that prompt. And I thought that was nice to finally get that a much better experience for that.
Cool. Thanks, Diane. How about you? Next, Eric.
Sure. Hi, nice to meet you, everybody. I'm a tech lead and manager working on the Android framework privacy team and companion device manager. If I had to pick a couple of things I'm excited about in Android 12, of course, excited about privacy features, really showing more of what apps are up to on the platform, including Google Apps, which I'm excited about. I'm really excited about the theming changes and kind of applying colors that you've picked to your theme, generally in the system UI. I change my desktop theme often, so I'm a fan. Yep. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Eric. Sarah, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah. Thanks for being here today. I'm a product manager on the privacy team, part of the framework org. And I would say, obviously, excited about all the privacy features as well. But if I were to pick one, I really like the way the quick settings UI looks. It looks really just clean and well organized. So I'm quite excited about some of those material U changes, but specifically the ones related to quick settings.
Cool. Thanks, Sarah. Wally.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wale. I lead the window manager team as part of the broader Android framework team. If I was to pick one thing I'm excited about, it's all the significant investment we've been doing on large screen form factors within Android and also in collaboration with the OEMs. This is kind of a huge opportunity for us to bring pretty awesome experiences to our users on Android, and also to kind of advance the state of the art on Android and the flexibility that it offers. That's
Cool.
it.
All right. Thanks, Wale. Yasin.
Thank you for joining us for this session. I'm a developer relations engineer. I work with Red on privacy, and obviously this release has tons of privacy features that we're excited about. I love all the changes we've made in the privacy dashboard, and I know how much Sarah worked on that with her team. But one thing that I'm really happy of is having the approximate location be a location. You may not have to give the precise location to the app you're using. So that's just the privacy first approach that we have on Android. So let's keep adding on more of those features.
Cool. Thanks, Yasin. Looks like we have quite a few folks that are working on privacy-related areas. So I'm curious for privacy, what do we mean by the privacy team? What's the scope of privacy team? Eric, Sarah, would you like to share with the folks?
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit. So in short, we own kind of the privacy enforcement mechanisms in the OS. And part of that is the permission system, how permissions are declared, APIs around permissions, permission checking, a lot around app ops, for example, how that data flows through the system and is checked. We also work on framework level UIs, like things around settings around permissions, permission dialogues, permission grant dialogues, and also some of the new Android 12 UIs, like the microphone and camera indicators, the microphone and camera toggles. We worked with the system UI team on those, and then privacy dashboard. Usually we're involved if there's some kind of policy discussion around what's possible and safe as far as design and APIs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Eric. So, I can see that there's a few questions raised by attendees. Let's go through them and let's see which questions that we are able to answer. So the first question is kind of forward-looking. What is the approximate date, month Android 12 is going to be officially released? I guess like we mentioned, we are in the tail end of Android 12 beta. I guess the release date is not public yet, but it's released soon. But I will also share that you probably have seen a timeline on our website, on our developer site, that's probably not drawn to scale, that sort of illustrates, that sort of gives you an idea on the approximate time frame that we are looking at. It's really, really happening soon. Would folks like to add to it? And actually in the chat window, I just pinned a URL of the rough timeline that we have published on our website for your reference, if you haven't seen it already. All right, cool. So the next one, we have a question on Jetpack Compose. Well, let's see if we have folks on here that are able to answer it. With Jetpack Compose being stable now, it turned stable in July, is it safe to assume the platform is moving towards deprecating fragments down the road? Diana, I saw you unmuted yourself.
I can take a stab at this. This is going to be mostly speculation. I haven't actually talked with the team about this, but I would guess that I don't think it means fragments are deprecated, because fragments are kind of part of the overall navigation model. So being able to split flows between activities or not, and movements between applications. And I think that Compose is still going to be more like the UI toolkit. Don't quote me on that, but I don't think it means fragments are going away. We did deprecate them already from the platform, so fragments are purely a Jetpack thing now. We don't, the platform side of them is not supported, so they're part of the application model and Jetpack. But I think they're still useful for the stuff they're intended for.
Right. I think in a practical scenario, it's not uncommon for developers to be using Jetpack in conjunction with their existing Vue systems. So yeah, cool.
Just a quick answer on that. Yeah. So even though I definitely agree on what Diane has said so far, but if you create now a Jetpack Compose application, so fully using Jetpack Compose, you don't have to use fragments. Again, as Diane mentioned, it's part of the Jetpack library. So it's really to help you organize your application with the navigation system if you're using Android views. But if you're fully using Compose, there is no need to have fragments at the moment. And I don't think
I've been corrected. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Yatin and Diane. So let's move on to the next one. It looks like it's related to some toggle features. Is there any plans to add toggle to stop speaker, like microphone camera at system level? Sarah or Eric, would you like to? Maybe you can share broadly with folks what toggle is being added in Android 12, just to set the context.
Yeah, I can provide a bit of context there. So in Android 12, what we try to do was mimic what the users do in the physical world by covering their cameras with stickers or plugging their audios with audio blockers. We try to mimic that in sort of a digital sense and make these toggles in the UI, in the OS, for the users to be really quickly mute microphone and camera. So that's the context. And the way these toggles work is we do block audio, all audio that's getting processed. So this is for audio that's processed through the stack. And on the camera works a little bit differently. Is once the user blocks the camera, what they'll get is a blank feed come through. So it's not completely blocked at the camera layer. Unfortunately, as Fred mentioned, we can't speak about a future of what we might be doing and what we plan to do. But we'll continue to work on these features and improve them in the future.
Oh, yeah, I think that's why it's great for us to get plugged into events like these so that we can get feedback from developers, so that we can consider them. Cool. Anything else that anyone would like to add to that? Cool. Thanks, Sarah. So we have one so let's go through another question. What can we incorporate from Material Next into our app as a developer? Do we have a subject matter expert here?
I can take the question. So literally 19 now we've released Material Library 1.5.0 Alpha 3, which includes Material U, which is the new name of Material Next artifacts. So if you want to use Material U, have a look at the GitHub page. There are details on the new components, which is part of this new release. I would now the link if you're curious. So have a look and play with it. Be aware that it's currently in alpha. I don't know when they're planning to have but definitely a lot of people involved there. But yeah, you can start to play with it already.
Yep. Cool. So it's fresh off the press. It came out 19 hours ago, or approximately 19 hours ago. Give it a spin. Cool. So I guess I do have one question around Window Manager. Actually, I'd like to ask for Wally's input. So so my understanding is that as part of Window Manager, we've added some large screen support, right? So the large screen segment in the industry has really existed for quite some time now. What new opportunities do you see, and what sort of new products or use cases that we see that are interesting for developers to explore?
Foldables.
Okay. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's you're right. The large screen area have kind of existed for a while now with tablets and other devices like Chrome OS supporting that++. But with the advent of you being able to like fold your device, that's kind of giving new energy to the space. And also with the whole thing going on with the pandemic, lots of people are staying at home, using their tablets more and whatnot. So there's a huge opportunity there for large screen to bring new experiences to Android and to meet what users want. On the foldable front, it's pretty amazing technology. You can now fold your display. You can take like a Galaxy Fold as a phone, or you can expand it out to be a tablet. Pretty cool. It's also a huge break in the mental model in our ecosystem where you know the size of your display and you can kind of assume things as you code and whatnot. But now, given that the display is kind of flexible, it's more things that developers need to think about and be aware of, and to make sure they properly support resizability and density changes and whatnot. We've done a lot in the framework, and our OEM partners have also invested significantly. We actually work with our OEM partners very closely at the engineering level to make sure the experiences are fine-tuned when it comes to foldables, large screen multitasking. But we kind of need the whole ecosystem to also come together. We need the app support to be there. And I think this is kind of one of the huge undertakings we'll need for apps to kind of invest in supporting resizability, supporting multi-window, and other features that kind of delight users when they use large screen devices. But yeah, it's an exciting space. It's been around for a while. New excitement around the fact that we have foldable screens. New excitement around the fact that lots of people are staying home. They're using their tablets more. So, and we need help from the ecosystem, from the app developers to bring those experiences to large screen.
Great, cool. Yeah, having affordable. I don't have one, but I imagine having one beats having a phone plus a tablet, and it can,
Definitely.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for your insights. Cool. Let's move on to attendee questions. Okay, it just jumped. How can developers make sure that our apps are not run on insecure devices, but other than safety net, which requires play surfaces?
I can take it, address this a little bit. I think fundamentally you can't have a guarantee that you're not running on an insecure device, and I think that you can certainly try to do things to find out if it's secure, but that's kind of a cat and mouse game that you're going to be playing with people who want to have your devices. In fact, and I think you're going to find us starting to play that game with you as well, because we actually have in 12 we actually started hiding some stuff from I hided SU from applications so they can't see that. So that we have this issue that on our development builds, as we do development builds, we've increasingly been finding applications not using safety net to discover if they're running on an insecure device, and they count our developer builds as insecure devices. And so we increasingly have applications we can't actually run as we're doing dogfooding in development. And so in 12, we actually hide SU, because that's one of the things that there were a bunch of applications starting to look at that we couldn't use anymore, or couldn't even couldn't test against or anything like that. Expect to see some more of that happening in the next release, because we actually kind of went out with this release with some at least one significant application that we couldn't run anymore, and we're during our testing. And so we're going to be addressing that. So I think that this is kind of it's a very tricky problem. I think the first thing I'd say is ask yourself why you really feel the need to protect yourself from insecure devices. If you're dealing with health data and stuff, you maybe have government regulations, but I hope that most applications can kind of stop and think about that and see if how much you really need to do. I mean, and like I said, there's going to be a cat and mouse going on. The more applications are doing this, the more there's going to be things happening to hide stuff so they can't do it. So when we're in that situation right now. So that's kind of what things look like right now.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely an evolving space. Thanks, Diane, for your insights. So let's move on to another attendee question. How do you do work? How do you get work done after some amount of time? In other manufacturers, including various manufacturers, some of the manufacturers close all processes of apps when removing from recents. Would anyone like to? Amit?
Yeah, I can take that. Yeah, I definitely understand this. The first official answer is please continue to use Work Manager or related APIs to schedule your background work. We do understand that OEMs are doing certain things that are causing compatibility issues. This is really, honestly, the top priority for my team. We've been introducing all kinds of restrictions over the last few years, basically to guide developers towards the right APIs to schedule work, because the OS needs to have more visibility into what it is that you're trying to do, and is it really the right time to do things as far as the user is concerned. Battery life is a big concern, and that's why OEMs do these things, because they need to try to preserve as much battery as possible. So setting a lot of these restrictions, like the new one in Android 12, that you can't just randomly start a foreground service from the background. Foreground services are one of those things that we just have no idea at the OS level what is it the app is trying to do, and whether it's right for that occasion, and how much is it draining the battery in the background. So there are two steps here, right? So one is we try to address on the platform side a lot of the reasons why there are some of these compatibility issues, which is because apps are allowed to do a lot of things and we have no control over it. So setting some guardrails and guidelines on best practices for developers to get background work done is the first step. And in parallel, we've been working very closely with the OEMs to address their concerns, and we have been pretty successful with a lot of these OEMs in removing some of these, force stop and other behaviors, at least on newer devices, on flagship devices. You might still experience some of these with older OS versions or lower end devices because they're a lot more resource constrained. But a lot of the work we're doing now to introduce better APIs like expedited jobs and restrict unlimited usage in the background is really about not needing to do all these incompatible restrictions from the OEM side, as well as give the user a better experience with hundreds of apps being installed that users might actually never open again. It really doesn't make sense for those apps to be doing background work. So making sure that we're controlling how much battery each app is consuming and whether it makes sense for the user is really the right path forward. And that's why we are introducing a lot of APIs and restrictions.
Cool. Yeah, that definitely, there's a lot of ongoing collaborations with different OEMs, and that's just an ongoing discussion that the team's been working on. All right, cool. So we have, well, it looks like the questions are still coming in. Great, awesome. So the next question, Android 12. On Android 12, I found that there's a new class called strings introduced in Biometric Manager, but it's only available on Android 12 or higher. Is there any plan to provide support for older version? So I guess it's a Jetpack related question.
All right. So yeah, biometrics is. I wasn't aware of this API. I'll talk with the biometrics team about. I think this is a request you have to put it in Jetpack. I'll talk with them about.
Yeah, cool. So, and my understanding of this API is for ease of localization, such that on the biometric prompt, it makes it easier for applications to say to localize the call to actions. Yeah, definitely good, something good for us to follow up internally on the Jetpack plan. But in general, I think it's a good thing for teams to be thinking about Jetpack support, because out of practicality, it just makes more sense for developers. So thanks for raising this question. So let's go through the next one. Will app icon shapes make a comeback in the final release? One would like to take this?
Yes, as far as the platform support for icon shape, that hasn't changed, and it's something we still plan to continue to support in the platform. It's important for our OEMs to be able to have the icon shapes to match the theme and the UX of their product. So it's up to individual OEMs on the kind of shape they pick for their product moving forward.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Wally. All right. The next one is about splash screen. It's in Android 12, splash screen has been standardized, right? What is the way to load startup data and implement Android 12 splash screen together? Yassine, looks like you've unmuted yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, all right. For this one, the right way to run any kind of work or the actual app launch is to use the Android X startup library from Jetpack that we've released. I think it was. That would be the right way for you to interact with any preloading work. Keep in mind that obviously more work you add, longer your app starts, takes time to start. And for the splash screen, there is also a Jetpack library that brings back the feature down to API 23 So have a look at the Jetpack splash screen and Jetpack start libraries. They will help you to do what you're looking for.
Cool. My understanding is that the app startup libraries combines tasks into one content provider startup or initialization.
Yeah, I mean, those are more like technical details, but it's like
yeah.
a really right way for you to optimize that. But if you're just looking to load some, to have some tasks like, I don't know, loading the home screen content before having the actual content being displayed, yeah, you can, you may just be able to use the splash screen API that handle that. And if it's like, I don't know, loading or initializing some libraries to save some milliseconds, yeah, have a look at App Startup for that.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Jesse.
I would add to that is it's important to keep that the splash screen is what the window manager displays before your app process even has an opportunity to run. So it's kind of pre what you can do for preloading, and I guess kind of a little bit disconnected from it as well. So it is possible for us to be displaying the splash screen for your app way before you can do any kind of uploading.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. All right, let's move on. What's the major reason behind changing the behavior of back press on launcher activity except code warm startup?
Changing the behavior of back press. Oh. To some degree, it's kind of following a pattern we've seen on Android, especially with the introduction of gesture navigation, where in most cases, the difference to a user swiping to go home and swiping back to exit the app is the same. They don't perceive it as, you know, distinguishable actions. Both things lead them to the home screen or to a previous state. And when you do swipe to go home, it's normally we just move your activity to the background. And we felt it kind of makes sense to do the same for the back gesture as well. We've been monitoring the feedback around that action, and we've not seen any significant thing yet to warrant us changing that direction. It also allows the application process to stay around a bit longer. That kind of matches the home swipe state as well.
Cool. Thanks, Wally. So it looks like we have a question on Keystore. Keystore's especially strong box seems to be quite flaky in real-world usage. Is there anything done to improve this? I think Android Keystore is rewritten in Rust. Can we expect an improvement? Does anyone have any insight on this one?
Yeah, no, we don't have people that I think to cover that.
That's fair.
I will say the rest. I don't know that the rest was the intention was to the rest. The rewrite in Rust was intended for it to address to increase the security and not necessarily robustness. But hopefully it is. I mean, it is. Issues are being addressed. I mean, I'm not even aware of what issues there are.
Yeah. Well, Android is so vast that we need to check in with subject matter experts in this area. Cool. Thanks, Diane. Let's move on to what's new in Android 12 with respect to testing. Is it another? It's probably another question that we need to follow. We don't have representation here that knows enough about it. Yeah, cool. Let's move on. What kind of app behavior puts an app into restricted bucket? Any examples? Amit, this sounds like your area.
Yeah, it's a little bit vague at this point. The only implementation I'm aware of is if the app hasn't been used for a significant amount of time, several days or weeks, I don't remember the exact number, then it can fall into the restricted bucket. The reason it was created was that if we detect abuse, for instance, that there's a lot of battery drain in the background, in spite of maybe moving the app to the rare bucket, then we will move it to a restricted bucket. In terms of functionality, though, it's very similar to the rare bucket. So you don't really need to do anything extra to handle it. It's just you get much less quota for doing background work. So I don't think you need to worry too much about falling into the restricted bucket.
Yeah. And my understanding is that there's also some ADB commands that developers can issue to force their app to be executed in a certain bucket, just to test out your app behaviors when you are in one of these simulated modes. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Amit. Let's move on to another testing question for fingerprint manager and biometric prompt. But with Android X, you need a fragment or fragment activity to create a biometric prompt. How do you test that without UI tests?
Yeah, we don't have anyone on the biometrics team here to really be able to answer this. I'm a little confused by this because the biometric prompt, the point is to pop up UI to have the user do my biometric check. So I'm a little confused about how this would be done without UI tests. I feel like, if you want to, you can mock these things out if you don't want to be testing UI, but it seems to be those are kind of intrinsically UI things that you kind of have to be doing some. Well, more than that, they have to interact with the device to actually, to interact with the prompt, yeah. So I don't know. I would say, either you mock it out or you're probably going to have to actually do a UI test.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it probably makes sense for us to also consider having some resources to help guide developers in this area. We'll think about that as well. Cool. Thanks to Diane. So we have a privacy question next. With Android 12 and upcoming release of a new version of Google Play services, one would require permission to read advertising ID. Can I test these privacy features in advance with beta version? Sarah, would you like to take that?
Yeah, so we did introduce a new manifest declaration for apps targeting Android 12 to access ad ID. This team specifically didn't work on this. I am checking with the right team now to see if you can test this in beta. So once I hear back, I think we can follow. I don't know, maybe Fred, maybe you know.
Yeah. Actually, in beta 4, the plan is to roll out this updated version of GMS Core, beginning with Android 12 beta 4 to enable testing. So that's the plan. Yep. But yeah, to Sarah's point, there's a new normal GMS Core permission that's been added that would be required for apps running on Android 12. Yeah, cool. So that's advertising ID. Thanks, Sarah. So let's move on. Oh, the vote ranking just keeps changing. Okay, so let me lock this down. Will services running in the background cause moving to restricted buckets, say sending custom analytics information?
As far as I know, it's not supposed to, because first of all, you can't run services in the background since Oreo. So I'm assuming this might be either foreground services or some jobs that you've scheduled. And if it's scheduled jobs, then they are allowed to run. So that's not a reason for them to move to the restricted bucket. Having said that, I don't know if OEMs are applying any additional conditions when they decide to move things to restricted bucket. So maybe if you can follow up offline with specific information, like a bug report or something, we can definitely take a look at that.
Yep. Cool. Thanks, Ahmed. So next up, we have another toggles question. Is it correct that camera and mic toggles are opaque to apps? If so, if a feed is critical for our app's functionality, how should we handle this from a UX point of view to guide the user to re-enable?
Sure, I can take that one. So the design philosophy, we touched on this a little bit earlier, is that we're trying to mimic, hardware blockers. For example, I have my camera blocker here. Now, when it comes to application functionality and how the UX changes, really, there are two things you can do. One is that you can sample via Sensor Privacy Manager whether toggles are enabled on that device. But really, you should rely on the system UX to push up a dialog if your app is open to remind the user that toggles are enabled. Right now, it's the system's responsibility to manage those toggle states and to remind the user of toggles. That's our design philosophy right now. Yeah.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I guess the TLDR also, in addition to what Eric has shared, is to just follow existing permission best practices, right? And request those type of API pattern. Yep. Cool. Thanks, Eric. Oh, we have about 10 minutes left. Let's see. How can we incorporate themed icons for our apps? Couldn't find any documentation for that.
Themed is not something that is publicly available yet. We don't have any public APIs for it yet. We're planning to have public APIs for it in a future release of Android.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. Next up, so how do we follow up for questions that needs following up? Yasin, any thoughts on that?
We've shared, DroidCon shared a tweet with all our Twitter usernames. I will just say ping us or ping directly me or Fred. I will be sharing our Twitter nicknames. We'll try to ping the right person afterwards. So yeah, just ping us on the easiest way.
Cool, great, that works for me. Thanks. So I think we've addressed the one on the top. What's the future of Android Auto with Android 12? Why third-party apps like WhatsApp can't manage costs? We don't have any Android Auto folks here today, unless anyone would like to jump on. Else it's another question that we need to follow up. All right. Tested the rich content insertion API on different devices. It looks broken on certain devices. Should I wait for stable release or open an issue? I'd say open an issue. Any other thoughts? All right, issues trackers are there for a reason. Diane, did you want to add something?
Just agreeing. Yeah, just like, yeah, it's good to let us know. And so, yeah.
Yep, I appreciate the feedback. Yep. Next up, a part of window metrics changes coming in Android 12. Is there any new functionalities or APIs that help with development for foldables and large screens, or should we use Jetpack Window Manager to target these devices? Wale, you sort of touched on this earlier. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on best practices that developers should think about.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes, using Window Manager Jetpack is one of the recommended tools for this. It contains lots of the first-class APIs for foldables and large screens. We're also going to be releasing a large screen developer guideline at various tiers that will kind of walk you through the important things to support for large screens. In addition to that, I would say if you haven't done so already, one of the best things you can do to get your apps ready for large screens is to, one, support landscape mode, most of these large screen devices are landscape orientations, and apps for the longest time have run on phones that are mostly portrait orientation. So getting your app to lay out in the landscape orientation is one of the biggest things you can do to properly support large screens. The other thing you can do is to support a manifest attribute called resizable activity. This allows your app to seamlessly support resizing not only on different screen sizes, but also in multi-window mode. There are some other APIs we're adding. Most of those are available in the Window Manager Jetpack. And we're going to be releasing the developer guidelines for large screens. We're also updating the emulator to have various large screens and affordable device support as well.
Yeah,
but yeah, get your app supporting landscape. That's a pretty awesome first step.
Right. Yep. And tabs and keyboards and so forth. Yep. Cool. Thanks, Wally. And the next question is about accessibility improvements. Can anyone here speak to
that? The answer is yes. There will be improvements in future releases. I can't tell you what those will be, but yes, we do have a team working on accessibility.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Diane. And also from a developer resources perspective, there's a sample called Tracker. It's on GitHub, TRACKR. It's a sample that we've built that's meant to demonstrate accessibility best practices. So check that out on GitHub. All right, let's move on. How do we detect overlay window has been hidden in Android 12?
You want to detect if your overlay window has been hidden. The answer to that is you can't, because it's probably been hidden by policy. You might get a callback around whether your window is currently visible or not, but it's mostly hidden by policy, either because there's something of higher Z order that is occluding it, or because a privacy sensitive app like that doesn't allow for screen read decoration like settings is asking the operating system to hide it by policy.
Right. Okay, cool. Thanks, Wally. The next question is on telephony void type applications. Anyone? Yeah, so if let's follow up offline on Twitter on this one. Okay, the next one. What should be value of Android 12 safer component exporting for system broadcast receiver? So I know that for Android, for apps that target API level 31, there's a new requirement where for activities that have intent filters, the exported field must be explicitly set, which wasn't the case before.
Yeah, well, so if it's about that, it's just that we changed it. So it used to be exported was set if there was a default value supplied to it. If you didn't specify where it would be, if you had intent filters, it'd be exported. If you didn't, by default, it wouldn't be exported. I think the change now is like the default is always just not exported. So you basically, if you had intent filters before, you should maybe think about making it exported if you want to make it visible to other applications. If you have a permission on it, you don't need to. You probably want to leave it not exported because the permission is the thing determining access to it. Generally, for system broadcasts, you probably want to leave it not exported. I don't know that there. I don't think there's any exceptions to that really. The system can like touch everything, so it's fine to leave it not exported.
Yeah,
And if you were to export it, you probably want to protect it with a permission that the system would be wanting to hold, because you probably don't want other, the question is, is it okay for other applications to deliver that to you? Although for system broadcasts, it doesn't matter that much because we already protect those. But
right.
you're probably fine just leaving it with the new default.
Yeah, there you go. And I also understand that Android Studio has some improvements to flag these issues for developers. Yeah, basically the principle of data minimization. So cool, thanks. So we have 1 minute left. Let's attempt question with one vote. Any game optimization features with game dashboard? I couldn't enable it in it as it says the game should support it. Can't optimize the performance of device irrespective of any game played. Anyone has any insights? I guess judging from that, it's another question that we need to follow up. So I guess we're at time.